Hi, welcome to Actualol. I'm John Purkis. We're on to the third part of my entire board game collection where I'm going through every single board game that I own. This was a goal that I reached on my Patreon campaign. Let's get on with it. So at the top here, I'm also not going to get down, is Thief. This is on the chopping block. I'm actually planning to play this game tomorrow, and depending on how it goes, I will either keep it or not. This was the first game I ever kickstarted, and I kind of went all in on it and got all these extra add-ons like plastic buildings and metal coins. And the reason I did was because it was sold as a kind of advancement of Game of Thrones, the board game, a big diplomacy negotiation game, but with some added stuff, like you get to marry other factions and win the game together. And so I've played it a few times and I like those aspects, but there's so many rules exceptions. It's a very complicated game and I'm not sure it's necessarily worth that. I would love someone to make a streamlined version of that game. It just is bloated, but we'll see if I end up keeping it. Right, up here, we can start getting them down again. This is Go Cuckoo. This is a great dexterity game from Haber, where you have a bunch of wooden sticks in a metal tin, and you are pulling them out and then making a bird's nest, and then you're having to place eggs in that nest, and if they fall down to the bottom, you get punished for that, and then ultimately the winner has to place the wooden cuckoo on the top. It would be a great family game, kids game, but also just a great dexterity game for anyone. I really like that one. This is an empty deck box that achieves nothing and falls down. This is OK Play from Big Potato. I haven't actually played this one. I'm kind of waiting to go on holiday. This is a very simple Connect 5 type game that you can play 2 to 4 players, and you can play it on kind of any surface because it doesn't have a board or anything like that. So I'm looking forward to, I'm saving that one for a holiday. Top Dance, Just Dance is a party game about dancing. It's very silly. I kept it really because it's different. I wouldn't say it's one of my favourite party games, but it's energetic and probably be great for kids. You've got a bunch of different dance moves that are laid out on the floor or on the table that people are trying to look at. Then you're assigned one, you do the move, and they have to guess which card it is that you have based on like a number. Shout out a number. Mayday Mayday is a social deduction game that I'd heard really good things from the Game Boy Geek and Z Garcia about. You're on a plane. I guess it's got like a terrorist theme. I haven't. I played it once, but I kind of got the rules wrong, so I need to give this one more try. But I've got a lot of these types of games. Don't play them very often, so I don't know that will necessarily stick around. Obama Llama. This is also from Big Potato. This is a very silly, funny party game that I would recommend to this is kind of a good Christmas game, family game. It's good for non-gamers where you're just having to rhyme things. And so there's 3 different ways to play it, but one's like a charades and one's kind of like describing stuff like monikers. But every answer rhymes. So, for example, Mariah Carey Can't Eat Dairy is the answer to All I Want for Christmas Is You singer is lactose intolerant. It's just silly fun. There's some mechanisms to it that I think aren't perfect, but it's kind of, if you're worrying about that, you're defeating the object. Wordorific is a horrible looking game that I got off Kickstarter, really ugly. But I kept it because it's fun. It's a party game where you're trying to create words that fit into a category. So you it's kind of word association, and then you've got letter cards that you're trying to put together, and there's a speed element to it as well. And so, yeah, it worked well, and so that's why I kept it. Dobble, this is a super popular speed type reaction game. There's a few ways to play it. It's got these circular cards that have symbols on, and you're trying to match them or you're trying to hit the pile the fastest. I don't love this one, but I kind of kept it because it's so kind of accessible. But I've got other games like that. Right. Infarct is probably the game with the most inappropriate box that I have. But what I liked about this game, the reason I really sought this one out, is it's a game with a quirky theme about... It's all about health and having heart attacks, and you basically you have these different scales in the game of kind of how healthy you are in maybe your heart health or depression or your lungs or I can't remember all the other things. And then you're doing stuff in the game that is going to make you unhealthier or healthier. And you can actually host parties and invite your friends and then feed them loads of fatty food and alcohol and bad things and cigarettes and stuff. And you're basically trying to survive longer than everyone else in the game. The last time I played it, it went on a bit too long, but I love the humor to the theme. And so I need to give that one more try. Right, Iron Curtain. This I literally just played the other day, is a very small card game, and I'm actually kind of furious about how little is in this box. That is what's in the box. There's like 20 cards and some cubes, and the box is like 10 times the size. But yeah, this is a very simple alternative to Twilight Struggle. It's from the designers that did 13 Days, and I really like that game. It's elsewhere in the shelves. This is even simpler than that. It's got a Cold War theme. It's clever and really thinky. You can spend a long time thinking over just playing one card, and you only play 9 cards in the whole game, something like that. So yeah, I like that one. Balderdash, this is just the box of cards for Balderdash. I got rid of the bigger box. Talked about in this in my Couch Games video. Classic 80s party game where you are coming up with definitions, fake definitions to certain things, and this adds in laws and events and other things. And yeah, it's just, I like that kind of game because it's creative, but most people don't have a hard time with it. Linky, this is a trivia game. I really like this. I feel like there's not enough questions in it, but you basically asked 4 questions that are really simple. So you're generally going to get them right, such as in which pub game are wooden balls bowled at wooden pins, and the answer is Skittles. And then those 4 things, you're sort of writing them down or thinking them in your head, they all connect, and you have to come up with the connection, the link. And it's just a lot of fun. So that one. Rainbow Rage, this is also from Big Potato. This is probably my favourite speed reaction game, like Ghost Blitz or Jungle Speed. This one, you have these rainbow cards. 2 colours have been swapped in the wrong order, and you have to grab those 2 colours. There's these plastic sticks, and you're trying to complete a rainbow. I've talked about this in a video a while back. I Know, well, this is actually an expansion to, I think I talked about I Know before. This is basically just an extra question pack for that game. Then up here, I've got a bunch of timelines. So I've got the general one, inventions, British history, music and cinema, and British, no, I said British, historical events. I really like timeline, talked about it in my top 10 Christmas games. Trivia game about putting events in order. I think my inventions is probably my favorite, and I also really like music and cinema because it's a bit different. The others all have inventions in as well, which is a bit weird. And then Zany Penguins. This is, I don't really like these tins. It's kind of an annoying box. You can't even sleeve the cards to fit in this. But this is quite a clever drafting game from Bruijne and Mathieu Lanvin, and yeah, it's got really cute artwork, these penguins, and it's kind of area control thing, surprisingly deep. Yeah, I like that one. I just wish it was in a different box. Right, Mask of Anubis. This is a VR game similar to Mask of Moai that I talked about before, I think. Maybe I didn't. This is a cooperative game where one person is wearing a VR headset made out of terrible cardboard thing with your phone in, and they are trying to communicate to everyone else what they can see in this temple, and they've got these pieces, they're trying to build out this map of this temple. It's just a fun experience, and yeah, I've really enjoyed that, but I can't wait to see more designers kind of play with that kind of thing. Caribou Camp, this is a family party game that I talked about in a video. It's again very similar to Gamsch Alpine and Sign that I talked about. It's based on a public domain game called Tamps or Camps, and you are playing, you're picking up cards, you're trying to create a set and then communicate to your other team. What I like about this one is it gives you ways to communicate. So you might pull on your ear or wink or touch your nose. Yeah, and it's got cute artwork. I don't know if I'll keep it forever. I need to give it a few more plays. Blurble, I love this one. This is a great drinking game, great party game, so immediate. You flip over cards that have pictures on, and you're competing with one other person to say, as quickly as you can, another word that begins with the same letter that that picture starts with. So if you can see a picture of a pirate, then you might say plank, or person, or anything that begins with P, but it's just the first person. And like Anomia, it just creates this kind of, you just end up saying these completely made up words. Love that one. That's from North Star Games. Big Bazaar, this is from Adam Board Game Wales, the designer. I actually talked about this in a video if you want to see more. It's basically Anomia on steroids. It brings in extra stuff that you have to shout out, extra ways, just clever twists on that game. Really like that one. Another great drinking game. Wink, this is one of my favorite party games. Haven't played this one in a while. I talked about this in my top 10 Christmas games to play at Christmas. You have to wink at other people whilst other people are kind of trying to catch you out. So you're all going around trying to match numbers with other people, and you have to wink at them without anyone seeing you. It's great. It creates such a weird tension whilst everyone is kind of on their kind of watching everyone all the time, waiting for someone to slip up. It's really, really fun. The Chameleon, this was in my top 10 party games of last year, based on Gooseberry. It's a hidden thing, a bit like Fake Artist or Spyfall, where you're trying to, if you're the chameleon, you're trying to pretend you know what everyone else knows, and the other people are trying to show that they know, but without giving it away too much. Gift Trap, this is quite an old school party game. This is about giving gifts to other players, and I like it. It's different. You are having to understand your friends. So there's a bunch of gifts in the center, random things like holidays or hiking trip or a lobster meal or a TV or something. And you have to pick which one of those gifts a friend around the table would like the most. And then they're voting on what they would like, and you're just trying to match up with people. Yeah, I really like that one. It's just a bit different. Quirky box. The components are a bit rubbish. I'd like to see an updated version. Celestia, this is a great game. Just played it the other day. In my top 10 Christmas gifts video, it's a push your luck game, but with some bluffing, and that's what elevates it above any push your luck game for me. You're on this airship, you're trying to get higher through the clouds, but there are obstacles that present themselves to the person who's the captain that round, and does the captain have the right cards to deal with it? Well, they might pretend that they do, because then everyone else will crash in the ship with them, or they might be honest and say that they don't because well, they might lie and say that they don't so that other people get out, so they will go further in the clouds on their own. Really clever, that game, and the expansion is really great for it as well. Casting, this is like Unusual Suspects, where you are having to make judgments based on these pictures of people, but it's more creative, and that's what I like about this one. It's a lot of fun. You have to kind of answer questions about people. This is all written in French, so that's useful. But really fun party game, that. Definitely keeping that one. Favelas, I got at Essen this year, and I was pleasantly surprised by how simple and thinky this game is. It's a tile-laying game from Chris Bryan, who's from Bored with Life. He's got his own YouTube channel. Really nice artwork. And yeah, I'd recommend this one. It's a good gateway game. I kept sort of thinking that it wasn't for me, and then I've played it again and again and really liked it. Carcassonne, classic game, one of my first games I ever owned. It's in my top 10 couples games. You all know about Carcassonne. I think it's a really fun game. I don't play it as much anymore. It's kind of drab and it's lost some of the appeal for me, but I think it's still a game worth keeping. And I need to get some expansions for it to try them out. Crosstalk, this is a great party game I talked about in my top 10 party games of last year and in my top 10 couch games. It's a clever clue-giving game where you're playing on teams. Definitely keeping that one. Love that one. Pitch Deck, this is a game I got recently from the makers of Monikers. This is another pitching or persuasion game like Snake Oil or Fun Employed, where you are pitching kind of business ideas, and it's all quite sort of modern stuff. So for example, you might have to come up with new versions of Tinder, and then you'll play a card from your hand that is like Tinder for centaurs or Tinder for your doomsday bunker. And then you're kind of creatively coming up with reasons for that. I didn't necessarily love it as those other games. I think it's not quite as open to creativity, but I also think that it is potentially does kind of work well if you're looking for a Cards Against Humanity replacement, because you can kind of just play the card without doing any description. They're kind of jokes on their own in that respect. So it kind of depends the game that you're looking for, really. Sheep and Thief. This was a game from last year I love. I've talked about this in a video. It's a great gateway game. I like that it's got a bit of bite to it where you're attacking other players. It's a hand drafting card game. You're building these little sheep yards. Really cute artwork. Love that game. I keep that one for a long time. It's a great gateway game. Nuns on the Run. It's not the best hidden movement game in the world. I talked about it in my hidden movement video, but I love the theme of it, and I like the twist that actually loads of people are hiding and only one person is hunting. Your novice is in a nunnery, and then the older nuns are trying to catch you late at night whilst you're scampering out of your dorm room. Yeah, definitely keeping this one. Love it. It's the rules are a bit complicated, but it's great. At the back there, I've got Thunder and Lightning, which is a 2-player card game I talked about in my dating games video. It's a nice head-to-head thing, really nice artwork. I don't know if I'll have that one forever, but it's a cool game. Check out my review. Lifeboats. This is a fairly recent acquisition of quite an old game. This is described by some people as one of the meanest games out there, where you're pushing people out of lifeboats, you're voting on who's going to get kicked out, and they're all springing holes, and you're just trying to get as many people to the end and to safety as possible. It's another kind of negotiation game. I like those kind of games, and it's quite streamlined, so I've only played it once, but I enjoyed it, so I'm keeping it for now. Picassimo, this is a drawing game that I really love. I've talked about this in a video in the past. You are drawing something, and then you're shifting the tiles of your drawing board, of your whiteboard, around, so people can't quite work out what it is, so it looks a bit weird like that. And it's just a lot of fun. It creates a great challenge, that, and it's hilarious. So yeah, really like that game. Definitely keeping that one for a long time, one of my favorite drawing games. Sagrada, this was in my top 20 games of last year, and also in my Couples That Play Together video. This is a dice drafting game, I think the only one that I have, where you are building stained glass windows. The theme doesn't really, it's kind of nothing. It's just a real nice puzzle, thinky challenge, quite relaxed, good with 2 players, good with 3 and 4 players too. So yeah, keeping that one as a good kind of approachable game. Brewcrafters. This is probably the heaviest Euro game that I own, and the reason for that is because I really like the theme of this. You're running your own craft beer breweries, and you're expanding them, and everything makes sense thematically in this game, or at least mostly. I've got a really awesome games trays insert in this that sorts out all the pieces, because there's a lot of pieces, and I think the reason it works for me over other Euro games is because it tells you a story, or you're telling a story, and you can kind of chat about it around the table. And it's not like super complicated. Time Arena, this was at Essen. I've only played this one once. It's a 2-player game. You're kind of going against each other, and you're playing with a timer. So if you take too long on your moves, you might lose. I need to try that one again, really, before giving a full judgment. Order of the Gilded Compass. I played twice very recently, because recent get for me. This is a fun dice placement game. It's kind of an advanced version of Las Vegas, which is a game that I love. The theme is, doesn't mean a whole lot, but it's got some real thought to it without being super complicated. It's also got some variable kind of setups, so it's kind of different every time you play it. Yeah, I like that one. I don't know if it's like a super long-term game for me, but it's cool. Indian Summer, this is a great game. This was in my top 20 games of last year. This is from Uwe Rosenberg. It's another one of his Tetris-style puzzle-laying things, and it's more advanced than Cottage Garden and Patchwork, and I really like the things that it adds. It also looks really nice. Horse Fever. This is a great betting game. You own horses, you are betting on them, but you're also sabotaging them, or sometimes making them faster and things like that. It's got a really nice theme in that respect. It's a tiny bit overcomplicated. I wish it was a bit simpler and they took out some of the extra elements, but the heart of it is brilliant, and that's why I've kept it and will be keeping it. I think they're coming out with a game called Unicorn Fever, which I don't love the theme of, but maybe is a simpler version of the same thing. Sheriff of Nottingham, this is a classic bluffing game where you are trying to smuggle goods into Nottingham. I would prefer this had the original theme of trying to steal things, smuggle things across the border, but this one's fine. I like that I like the bags and putting the cards in and pushing them in front of someone. I like that you kind of bluff both ways in this game. This has also got the expansion in, but I'm yet to play with that. I really, really want to because I understand it makes it even better. Go-Go Gelato. This is the only game that I own, as far as I know, that is one of these reaction games where you flip over a card and then you have to do something quick, dexterously, and the person who wins first. They're kind of great for drinking games, great for kids. And there's Dr. Eureka and Dr. Microbe and a whole bunch of other games like this. This is my favorite one and ultimately the only one I ended up keeping. It's got these great plastic ice cream cups and ice cream balls, and they're like ping pong balls, and you have to stack them up. And I mean, of course it's a kid's game, but I like it. Schmovie. This is a party game about writing movie titles. So you'll have to roll a genre, so let's say action, and then you have to come up with the name of a film about a killer sandwich or something like that. And then everyone's writing on a whiteboard. It can be a bit challenging because you're having to create that out of nothing, although they do give you a few prompts. But if you play with some creative people, it's just a lot of fun, really funny. I've also, I think, got some other party games in this box. Oh yeah, I've got Compatibility. That's a great game to play with couples or friends where you're trying to understand, you're trying to match with them. I've also got Word on the Street, which is a team party game, like word building game, that I talked about in my top 10 games to play at Christmas. So I would also, yeah. So Schmovie, I don't know if I'll keep that one forever, but it's really great. Just going back, Sheriff of Nottingham is definitely a long-term keeper for me. A Tale of Pirates. This was in my top 20 games of last year. This is a great real-time cooperative game about running a pirate ship. It's got loads of teamwork to it, and you play it with an app. And it's got sand timers as well. Really nice looking game as well. Definitely keeping that one. I haven't played through all the scenarios yet either. Magic Maze. Well, this was my favorite game of last year, so of course I'm going to be keeping this for a long time. It's a great real-time cooperative game about where you can't communicate with the other players, and so you're trying to work together but understand what everyone wants you to do. When I Dream, this is one of my favorite party games of last year. This is a really unique twist on a party game where you are trying to describe words to a person with a blindfold on, but some of you are trying to throw them off. Some of you have hidden roles that are trying to swing them in the other direction, but stay hidden. It's hilarious. I can't recommend that game enough, really. And then also similar white box. This is a party game that I've loved for years. This is my top 10 games to play at Christmas. Concept. It's, imagine Pictionary, but instead of drawing things, you are linking together concepts. You've got a board of all these abstract concepts, and you might be trying to explain Brad Pitt by putting a cube on person, putting a cube on, I don't know, I'm not going to try it now, but you see what I mean. There's just loads of different symbols in the board, and it's I'd recommend that to most people who want a party game. Ladies and gentlemen, this is quite a quirky, big group game. I mean, it's basically a party game, but it's quite involved. I love the theme of it, though. You play in teams. You are a lady and a gentleman from the 1920s. The gentleman has to go out to work at the stock market and make as much money as they can. The lady has to go shopping and buy pretty dresses to look really good at the ball at the end of the week. So it's and it's fun playing, you know, for guys to play as the women and things like that. And there's just a lot of humor around the table when you play it. But it's also got like, it's, you know, it's quite deep in the mechanisms of it, surprisingly so. Right, here I got, this is one of my drawers. This is where I keep all my sleeves. It has got far too many sleeves because I tend to reuse, because I use like premium sleeves. So these are all like in baggies with symbols on. And then I've got, these are like the Paladin sleeves that I haven't used yet. So I've got a collection of those. And then also I've got all my plastic baggies. and just a few other things. Oh, some Fantasy Flight sleeves. Yeah, so that's the draw. Right, then we're down to here. Back to some big box games. Captain Sonar. This is a great big group game. 4 versus 4. You're both controlling submarines. You're playing real time, and you're trying to find the other submarine and shoot them down. Kind of like an advanced version of Battleship. Really love that game. So different. You're playing on whiteboards. I love I love games with whiteboards, apparently. Time Stories. This is a great thematic game where you it's all so story driven. You play with different scenarios. You can only really play them once, but there's a real puzzle aspect to it. So you're effectively being sent back into time to solve something. I can't really give away the themes too much. I've only played the first 2 cases because I've always just wanted to get the right group together to play the other cases that I have ready to go, but I'm really looking forward to that. And amazing artwork in this game. I hope that they don't stop making them, but I'm having a hard time keeping up with them. New Angeles, I've just noticed my box is all damaged. That sucks. This is one of my favorite games from last year. This is a great negotiation game. I have so many negotiation games with a really nice corporate theme of where you are horrible corporate bastards trying to rinse your city dry of money. But if you do it too far, then it'll all kind of collapse in and you'll all lose. Yeah, just really great game. I've actually done a full review of that, so go and check that out. Charterstone, this is an incredibly popular Euro legacy game. I've only played 2 games of this, so I can't talk about it too much. You're building a village and you're putting stickers on the board, and that's really all I can help you with there. This War of Mine was one of my favourite games from last year. I love the stories that this tells. It's a very dark adult theme of surviving the horrors of a war. It's a cooperative game, and it has this storybook that has really well written stories in it. Dead of Winter, The Long Night. This is the standalone expansion to Dead of Winter, so that's also down there. They are zombie games that are inspired by The Walking Dead, and you are not only trying to survive the zombies, but you've got hidden objectives. One of you might be a traitor, and you're trying to get all of the things that you need and negotiate a little bit with the other people in your colony. I've talked about this in my zombie games video, so check that out. And so that covers Dead of Winter as well, really. Penny Press is an under-the-radar gateway game, I feel. It's got a nice thematic vibe to it where you are sending reporters to report on stories, and then there's a race on going to the press. It also looks really nice. So it was one that I wasn't sure about, and then I kept playing it, and I was like, no, actually, yeah, this is worth keeping, and so that's why I have. Rise of Augustus is another good gateway game. Reminds me of roll and write games. It's almost like a predecessor to those, where you're drawing things out of a bag like bingo, and you're trying to complete different cards that you have in front of yourselves with the tokens, the icons that come out of that bag. Very accessible and just a lot of fun. I wish the box wasn't so big. Dream Home. I've talked about this in my top 10 Christmas gifts. This is a great gateway game about building your dream home. The artwork is amazing, and it's got just enough interesting, frustrating rules in it to make it a challenge. And the expansion, Sunny Street, there's a number at the start of that, makes it really takes it to the level it needs to be at. So yeah, I really recommend that game, and keeping that one. It's a bit more solitaire than the gateway games I tend to use. Doesn't have as much bite to it. Uluru, this is a game, I actually bought this secondhand off of Slicker Drips, and I really like this one. It's a puzzle game. You're racing against a timer, I think, to complete these different objectives, but you won't necessarily be able to complete all of them. It's quite hard to describe, but it's really challenging, and also, again, really accessible. I keep using that word a lot, but yeah, I really like Allure. I've only played it once though, so I don't know. I think it's a keeper, really, though. This is Escape from Zombie City. This also has Escape Curse of the Temple in it. They are both great real-time cooperative games where you are rapidly rolling dice trying to escape either a temple or from zombies. I kind of like them both equally. They're slightly different in their approaches, and both got some interesting thematic twists. I think the zombie one's maybe a bit more thematic, but I've got a few. There's more expansions available for the temple one. Yeah, both a lot of fun. Very kind of stressful, but I really like those games. Definitely keeping one of them. I don't know if I'll keep both of them. Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. This is in my couch games video. This is my top 10 couples video, my number one. It's one of my favorite games of all time. You are solving pre-written cases like Sherlock Holmes. You're going to places, investigating them, and then with the people that you're playing with, you're discussing what you've learned and trying to crack the case. I love that aspect, and it's just an amazing game. And these new versions have the production on them is just insane. Watson and Holmes, this is also Sherlock game, also with pre-written cases, but this is a competitive game where you are racing to complete and solve the case before the other players in the game. The cases in this are really well written. They're really challenging and really interesting. This is a more modern design. I think I prefer the cooperative game, but I still love this one too, and I definitely want to play through all the cases in this eventually. I've played maybe 3 or 4. Yeah, so it depends whether you want competitive. I think the one downside with this is that you spend a lot of time sort of in silence writing down notes. That's the third bookcase done, so there's one more part to come. Thank you so much for watching. I'm John Purkis. Bye.